Sago. Hello to everyone who will find this message. My name is Crystaljoy, and I am the host of The Crow's Nest. And I wanted to share with you all a little bit of a channeling that I received yesterday. And the reason I want to share this with you all is that I feel guided to. I feel it's very important to share this message. I feel that it wasn't just for myself, but for everyone to understand the profundity and the depth of oneness and the connectedness that we all have to one another and to all things here on this earth. And I am hoping that it will help some of you as well along your journey. So in my tarot readings, if you're new to my channel, I do daily tarot readings, and for the last couple of days, I've been channeling messages about a scenic route, if you will, a sort of detour that someone or some of you have been making in your spiritual journey, and it was a path that you had to go down because there was something that you needed to learn along this journey. But this path that you went down, although it was veered off the path that you intended to be on, this scenic route that you're on, it will connect to the path that you actually had chosen to be on, but had just been a little bit redirected for a while, if you will. And so it was really interesting to me after yesterday, what had happened, to be thinking about those messages. And so what happened to me is I actually went on a hike. And as I was on my hike, I had planned to go to this waterfall, and the journey to this waterfall was very lovely. It was just this nice leisurely stroll through the forest, and once I found the waterfall, it was so beautiful. It was a beautiful day, and there was no one around. I had the whole place to myself. It was just so lovely, and I spent some time there at this waterfall. And then as I decided to continue on with my hike. And I have this app that I use, and I wasn't able to actually see the terrain of the trails that I was choosing. And so I chose a trail, and it was not what I intended, uh, quite like what was coming through in my readings. It was a very treacherous journey, if you will. And I think I got about an hour into this experience, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes into this part of this trail that I had chose after the waterfall. I realized that it was getting quite dangerous. I was by myself. I didn't have any climbing gear, and this is essentially what I was doing at this point, was essentially climbing the slope of a mountain. And the hill was so dry, the forest is so dry right now, and so the ground is just crumbling out from underneath your feet. And I realized that this was a journey that just probably was not the safest option for me to continue by myself without any gear. And I also realized that getting back down, and this is why I continued for so long, is getting back down also seemed dangerous. But I realized after a while that, how much longer can I continue on this, climbing this side of this mountain like this? And so I did make the decision to go back. And this is where things kind of got interesting for me. So I turned around and I looked at the mountain below me, and I realized that, once again, getting down was going to be dangerous. And so, looking at this downward journey that I had to endure, I quite literally out loud called to Archangel Saint Michael. And I called upon him and said, anyone else who would like to be here right now, calling upon them and asking them for their help, for safe guidance down this hill, because I was not looking forward to it, to say the least, climbing down the side of this mountain. So I called upon Archangel Saint Michael and anyone else who wanted to be there to ensure my safe trip back down this mountain. And as I was making my way down, there was a moment where it was getting, quite tense. And there was this fern. There were lots of ferns around. There are lots of those here in British Columbia. And I saw this fern, and I knew that I needed to grab a hold of something to find my next footing position. It was that kind of a journey where you had to make sure your hand was constantly holding onto something. And so, yes, I saw this fern, and I grabbed a hold of its branches, its leaves, and before I grabbed it firmly, I said to the plant, so sorry, thank you so much. And so I grabbed it firmly a hold of the plant, gave it a little tug. I realized its roots were very firmly planted, and so I did use that plant to help me to get down to my next footing position. And after a little while, I realized that, these plants were here to help me. There was so many of them, and they were essentially the only thing that I had to grab onto, because every rock that I tried to grab a hold of, every root that I tried to grab a hold of, every tree root, it was like everything was just crumbling out of the earth. And the only things that were staying, that were stable, planted in this ground that I had to grab a hold of were these ferns. And so as I continued down this hill, the side of this very steep slope on this mountain, which, if I had fallen, thank goodness I didn't, it would have been, hours or not hours, but uh, hundreds and hundreds of feet, sorry, of falling. It was just not a great space. And so, as I continued down my journey down this hill to safety, I continued to grab the branches of the ferns to grab, for something to ensure that I had something safe to hold on to so that I wouldn't fall. And as I continued, I said thank you to every fern that I grabbed a hold of. And, the reason I do this is because to me, plants are no different than people. I wouldn't appreciate it if someone walked up to me and pulled my hair. And so anytime that I do, touch a plant, I do ask it for its permission. Because I would not appreciate anyone coming up to me and just touching me without asking me. So I give plants the same respect. And after a while, I was so tuned in, it felt like I was just in this state of presenceness. This whole journey, it's interesting when I go for a hike because I can never remember what it was that I was even thinking about. I don't think I was even thinking of anything. The entire time, it's just this complete state of peace and tranquility and meditation. It's just, just a whole other experience for me when I'm on these hikes. And as I was continuing on, not only was I saying thank you to the plants, to the ferns, for allowing me to use them for safety, I started to hear them actually in this state of gratitude. It was like they were grateful that I was using them in that way to help to get me to safety. We talk about oneness and connectedness, and I think, and for myself, I did this as well. When we think about plants, we think about, plants are here to provide us with oxygen, with food, and that's the contribution that they make for us in that sense of connectedness. But it's really so much more. It was almost in that moment like I truly was surrounded by so many other beings who were there in a physical sense, who were providing me with this safety, with this resource. And it was like we were communicating with each other the entire way. And trees do that. Plants do communicate with one another. It's proven scientific fact. And, I was hearing this in my mind's eye, in this state of trance, if you will, on this journey. The conversation, the communication between myself and the plants, of me thanking them for helping me to get to safety and allowing me to use them in that way to essentially pull on their branches to help to get myself to safety, but also the gratitude that they had to provide me with that. And so I thought that was a very interesting experience that I wanted to share. And I think it really does. I feel like some of us needed to hear that, or some of you out there needed to hear that experience to help to understand, to open your mind up a little bit more into this connectedness that we all have, and how everything here on this earth plays a role in supporting us in our journey. Even if that means, using a plant's branches to help to get us to safety. And, as I continued on my journey, once I found myself back to the waterfall, two crows have just flown over me. That's beautiful. As I had found myself back to safety, back to this waterfall, I had, obviously wanted to continue on my hike after a break, of course. And I chose another part of the trail, another path. And, at first, when I chosen this path, once again, I got far enough along this path that, it was like this not wanting to go back because I invested so much time in this path. But then eventually I started to realize that this path was also getting, treacherous. It was a struggle. Quite literally today, my entire body is aching because have been describing it as I feel like I climbed Mount Everest yesterday. Um, I think I've used muscles in my body that I've never used before. That was the kind of day I had yesterday. And, and so as I continued on this second trail, that even though it was just as difficult but not as dangerous, for whatever reason I pushed through. And I think I spent probably about almost 2 hours on this trail that ended up, being a BMXing, mountain biking bike path. So what I was actually climbing up against was, jumps and slopes and things that people had created to go down the mountain. Um, so that was the interesting journey that I had, and I felt like there was a message in that in regards to, we feel like there's so much upheaval, and we are seeing that there is a lot of upheaval, but also change happening in the world right now. And it was this message that I was seeing for myself almost of going up against the grain, challenging the status quo, daring to be bold and to do something different. Even though I didn't realize, what I embarked on, once I realized the path that I was on, the trail that I was taking, it was like there was this message in that of this needing to continue along a path that we choose, having the strength to know that we are protected and to know that we can persevere through that experience. And so much gratitude for myself when I did reach the top, when I did find an actual trail, a gravel trail that, nice, smooth, level ground to walk on. It was a great sense of accomplishment, which was something else that came through in my readings about this scenic route that some of you would be taking. And so it was interesting to me to have that experience, quite literal, that I was channeling in my tarot readings. And I just really felt strongly the need to share that with you, because I do feel like it does help us to understand, once again, the connectedness, and I do feel like there was so much more in this journey yesterday. So many more messages that I'm to see and to understand that I feel are going to continue to come to me over the days that I look forward to sharing with you. And I feel the reason is that, this is some of the change that we're seeing now, challenging ourselves, pushing ourselves beyond our limits, beyond our fears, just breaking those boundaries for ourselves. The first trail that I had done, actually, the one that I had to turn back away from because it was too dangerous, I actually remembered it as a trail I tried to do before, and I actually realized that I made it much further along this trail than I had done years and years ago, the first time I found this trail. So it was interesting. I just felt this strong message coming through in that experience yesterday of, just pushing ourselves beyond our limits, pushing ourselves, through our fear, trusting that we're protected, and also not just understanding the depth and the profoundness of the connectedness that we have to each other, to plants, animals, everything on this earth, and to our higher counts, our spirit guides, our angels. My angels definitely came through for me yesterday. I very easily could have slipped and fallen and hurt myself terribly yesterday, and it did not happen. And I think that there's an understanding too of, and the needing to share with you all so that you understand for yourself as well. Again, in my readings and my channelings, I've been picking up so much about the need for you all to reach out to your spirit guides, because they are there to support you. They want to help you. And very few times have I quite literally out loud spoken to my guides and said, I really need you right now. I sometimes do it in my mind, but it was this moment of surrender, quite literal. I knew I was in trouble and I knew I needed the help. And I quite literally threw my hands up in the air and was not afraid to express the knowing of how much I needed them in that moment. And I feel that there's a message for those of you watching right now as well, to just trust that your guides are there. And if you feel like you ever are in a dark or an unsafe space, if you feel that you need, a little extra protection to get you through an unsafe journey or an unsafe situation or a path that you're on, you know for yourself that when you do surrender to your spirit guides in that way, and you do call upon them for their guidance and their support and their safety, to help to get you to a place where you no longer feel that you're in danger or in darkness, they are there for you, and they lovingly take that on. And going back to the plants, and the feeling of the gratitude that they had towards me for using them for my own benefit. Okay, so just know that once again, these plants and animals and everything that you see on this earth that is not human is there to support us just as much as we look to our friends and our family, and maybe even our spirit guides and our higher counsel, our angels, right? So I wanted to share that message with you all today because I felt like, again, that I was, just so guided to, and I feel like it's going to resonate with so much of you, and hopefully give you a sense of illumination along your journey, your spiritual path, and how you can really tap into our sense of oneness, and I'm hearing guidance as well. So I hope that this message does help some of you to find that sense of guidance that you're looking for, and a trust in the profoundness and the depthness of our connection and the protection that you really do have in this life and along your journey through this experience that we're having in this human life. So once again, I hope this helps. My name is Crystaljoy, Wounded Healer, host of The Crow's Nest. Be well.